I was in the booth. I was making sure the actors were saying the right lines. I was taking any notes that the director or the producers were giving. And I was finally sitting there watching actors act. And it was a great show. It was a show with a lot of talent and a lot of heart and a lot of funny. One of my favorite things about that, when they recast, one of the actors was leaving, another actor was coming in, they staged a fight sequence, and somebody was knocked out and they fell behind a couch. When they got up, it was another actor. And that was just, that's how that show worked. How perfect is that? And that show truly changed my career.
Because you moved into the position of associate director there.
I did.
And so...
and I did that not because of anything that I did so right, but because one of the associate producers soon after I got there became a director. And I just talk about the right place at the right time. I got to do that. And that job for me, if you asked me to pick one job that I've had in my entire career, what was the most important job, that one would probably win. It taught me everything. And one of the most important things, I'm not quite sure how they do it now, but back then there were two teams. And you were in the booth one day, and then the AD took that show to editing. And spending all of that time in editing, being taught how to put a show together, was so critical. And it also taught me how to work quickly. And that's a good calling card.
So in the booth, what does an AD do? Describe that for us.
An AD gets the shots ready, and again, more than anything, puts the show together, is responsible for putting the show together. And that's just sort of ultimately, I didn't want to be a director. I wanted to be an AD, and I was an AD for quite some time. I couldn't believe my good fortune. And the people that I worked with at that time, so many of them are still good friends today. Just the environment was so creative and loving and remarkable. And yeah, I mean, you basically took care of the show. You took it to editing, you put it all together to time, and then you would ultimately make any changes along the way.
Now, you mentioned working fast. Talk about
Yes.
a production schedule of a soap versus...
It's ridiculous. It's just, when I think about it now, it was just insane. We were in very early, we would do blind rocking in a rehearsal hall. Then we'd find our way onto the stage, and we were doing, 70, 80 pages a day. And somehow that was okay. That was the norm. We'd do a scene a few times. We'd do a dress rehearsal. We'd go out. We'd give notes. We'd, shoot, and then we'd reshoot, and then we'd shoot, and then somebody would come in and think we were spending too much money, so we'd just start, moving quicker. It was just interesting and educational.
So now, you said you didn't want to become a director, but you did, in fact, direct your first episode of TV for
How about that?
Santa Barbara. So how did that happen?
I just said no enough. It's amazing what happens when you say no. The executive producer came to me and asked me to do an episode. And I said okay, but not because I wanted to direct, but because how rude would that be to say no? And I was wildly nervous, but I had the support of everybody, and I had known everyone for so long, and I think everybody got a kick out of it and enjoyed the experience for me. And if you want the cover of the script, it's still hanging on my parents' wall. But I did it, and it was done, and I didn't do it expecting there to be another one. I did it because how lucky was I that I got to do that. But it turned out, in fact, that there was another one.
Were there any techniques or processes that you learned on Santa Barbara that you applied towards your career in directing episodic TV?
Well, I suppose because it taught me how to put a show together, I would say that's a valuable tool that I got from there, and throughout my career, even today, I use those lessons that I learned back then for sure. Speed, we talked about. There's no doubt that I've been asked back to do shows because I'm fast, and I learned it from there. And when I'm marking a script, I do it the way I learned on Santa Barbara. I mean, it's funny, as a director, you don't work with other directors, so you don't really know what anybody else is doing. So, we all have our own system, and if you look at my scripts, the ones that I do mark up, it looks a lot like the ones that I marked up back then.